Whether you're a mechanic, you never force anything, to a relationship, you never force anything. The buyer and seller, coming back to that, sometimes we force it and the buyer's not ready and the seller's not ready. It's got to be a win-win all the way around.
This episode is extremely important. He's a mentor of mine, whether he knows it or not. He is Pete Prados, and he's a business broker at Sunbelt Business Brokers. What I'd like you to listen to is the journey that he's on to love people, never force anything, and then help people get what they want. Here's Pete's episode. I'm so excited to talk to you because you're one of these people that I met years ago and have been following and admire. And you are a model for how No, I'm serious.
Stop.
I know. I get it.
We learned together.
We have learned together and we've grown together. But you mentioned earlier seasons.
Yeah.
Talk about that for a second, because you mentioned you're a season ahead of me, or just a little ahead.
I think as we get older, we realize that we don't have the same spunk and vigor that we did in our 20s and 30s.
I don't know, man.
You'd think you do until you start to do some of those things again. And then now, I guess at 63, I'm realizing that this is a season I've always wanted to give, but this is a season where we can give wisdom, to the younger us and really make a difference. So that's exciting. I
love that.
Yeah.
So you just came back from an experience in some of the organizations you're involved in. And I guess that kind of was where you found yourself as a mentor, talking with other people.
I've been doing that for about 10, 15 years, officially, with people around the world who are starting businesses for transformation in countries that are closed to the gospel.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been doing for quite a while, but now on the board of a group in Kazakhstan, and I meet people from around the world. And, it's the same issues over there, but worse because of, the political climate, persecution, things like that. So from a business acumen standpoint, we can lend some credence to the viability of what they're struggling with and lend some assistance. But it's a whole other set of factors that we don't deal with here. We can't just say it's the worst, start a business over there, get some investors and do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
You got countries that say you have to have visas, you can't invest there. You just many, many different things. But it's exciting, though, to think about how the gospel is going around the world through business, more so than the traditional missionary, where I have a really good friend who's on our board who is in Afghanistan, and the Taliban has invited him to come in and talk with him, and he does, with the Taliban, about businesses, and he's starting a coding company. And those stories go on all over the world, right? Being introduced to people that are terrorist organizations, but they're followers of Islam, but they want to know about Jesus because we have that common ground. And that becomes the common ground for breaking the barriers. And then what they really want are jobs. Of course you're a Christian. You can read your Bible. Here, teach us about Jesus. We want to know about that. But can you hire my son or my cousin or whoever? Because, man, your business is doing good. And y'all pay taxes. And that's real.
Yeah,
that's fun. That's really just a lot of fun.
Well, that's fascinating because we have our heads down and we're grinding, and we don't even think about that around the world at all. It's amazing that you've gotten engaged with that.
I guess God gripped my heart in the early 90s toward that, and started going around the world, and I was able, through business, also to go around the world after working with National Oil Varco. They bought our company. And to see other cultures really expands your vision and appreciate who we are here and what we have here. I don't think we have a clue until we go there. Until you step behind prison walls and talk with prisoners, you don't really know. It's just theoretical. Same with another country until you hear the stories of how they've, I don't want to bring up any graphics, but you know what I'm saying, just been through some very horrible things that have to do with.
You kind of mentioned the season you're in now as a mentor, and you've been there for a while, but go back to your first season. Well, maybe your first is probably growing up in high school, but your business life.
Yeah.
And I know you sold a business to get in position to where you are now, but tell us about that. What'd you do and what were some of your experiences?
Yeah. So I'll try to make it real brief because there's a lot of seasons here, but came here for college from New Orleans, fell in love with a Cajun girl, decided to take a temporary job with Lanier Worldwide selling copiers and presentation systems. And that turned into my first career. We got married, have a son, beautiful, amazing son. And so the opportunity came to us with this kid who was going offshore for this thing called Windows 95. It had just come up and people didn't want to come from offshore in to learn this new thing. So we started a company to do training on that. It was a season of opportunity. Something came to us. I was being tugged by the home office to go to Atlanta. And I had this kid, on the other hand, saying, man, I think he was working for Entree Computers. And these guys were coming in from offshore saying, man, I don't want to, why can't you go offshore and teach us this? We don't want to do this on our days off. So a real good friend of mine and I invested in him, bought some laptops, went offshore and started training. And before you know it, people said, can you learn our software and do this? Or can you support our computers? And then there's this new thing called Microsoft Access. And can you teach us how to write code? And then it became, could you just write the software for us? And we pivoted, we followed the money trail. And before long, we started writing software for the drilling industry. That became a business, and National Oilwell Varco bought the company, integrated our software into their hardware, had a 2-year agreement, stayed for 4, traveled the world again. It was an unbelievable experience, great people, multiple cultures, got on the international sales team, so anyway, it was just an amazing experience. So that season ended, and then when I met you, we, instead of starting the next big thing, we said, why don't we start a business that helps people have great ideas and help them get to the next level of success? So we started an angel group here called Acadian Angels with some amazing people. And then we started doing the first pitch competitions in Lafayette ever. So we had the first Shark Tank type of event we called the Vault. And we had people come into the Acadian Center for Arts in the belly of the vault and did our first pitch, and then it became the ACA, and then we started working with LIDA and the Opportunity Machine, and now they're doing, Destin over at the OM does an amazing job. But we started doing this pitch competition. I met you when we were doing a pitch, and you and Short and Fat,
that's right.
And y'all were one of the people pitching. Then we started doing CEO roundtables, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then about in the midst of that, one of the companies that came through was a medical device company. We pushed in, they asked me to be a part of it, and we started investing in that. And that was really going great with amazing patents. COVID hits.
Yeah.
Couldn't do anything, couldn't get in the OR. And so we were about to do a second clinical trial. Threw my hands up in the air, God, what do you want? And I was renting from this guy, Don Pippin, who owns Sunbelt Business Brokers. And he said, I think you'd be good at this. That was 4-something years ago. And I've never looked back. Absolutely love it. So it allowed this season in my life to now help people like me who had a business that built it up, can actually evaluate what the business is like and do something about it, because buyers are not our issue now. We can go to market confidentially and find buyers and help people through their season.
Yep, that's right.
Of what do you do now?
Yeah.
That becomes their identity a lot of times, is their business. But some of them, they're either 3 reasons. They're either going to be, it's medical, it's pushing them out for some medical reason, which is tough. And I'm dealing with that right now with a couple of sellers.
Yep.
Or it's burnout. Dealt with that multiple times with people who are just burnt out on what they're doing. Or they're ready to retire. It's time. The business is built. It's at a perfect spot. But working with them and seeing where they are in their seasons has been incredible.
Yeah, and that's where, oddly enough, our careers are starting to align again, because that's I'm doing a lot of the exit planning, and disagreement is another reason. right? You mentioned those three.
Partners.
But
oh, yeah.
partners,
We'll
I mean, I'm telling you, what,
buyouts,
yeah, it's so,
that's tough.
they find themselves, one of the things that I love that you can give so much guidance to a seller is, well, what about your next season? What do you want to do? Because I would say there's a large portion of deals that get like undone at the very end because, wait a minute, I'm about to sell. I don't know what I'm going to do the last half of my life or the last third of my life.
Jeff, I had a 77-year-old man selling his HVAC company.
Yeah.
He'd been in this since the Navy. And he said, and he looked at me literally across the table. He had tried 3 times to sell it. We had buyers and he couldn't do it. Yeah. And finally he broke down and he just said, Pete, I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. It's such a critical piece.
I was like, you can do whatever you want. And he said, yeah, I know. And he started thinking about his wife and like, you have a property in New Mexico. Why don't you just, but you know what happened? It was so cool, Jeff. The buyer said, we want him around. His phone rings off the hook because everybody knows him, loves him, appreciates him. We want him around. And so the transition became, dude, you don't have to go anywhere. You can still show up, drink coffee, answer the phone, make commission, transition out. It doesn't have
that's perfect.
It is. It was absolutely, and sometimes it works like that where we always do a training and transition plan where it's going to be, if there's a seller note, it could be longer term. Sometimes it's just a few months and then I'm moving on. But most of the time, it's just a transition that we write, we put in writing, people agree to, and we know what's going to happen for the next year with the sellers and the buyers, which gives comfort to the banks who really are the ones who buy the businesses, and the buyers who they know they can't do what you've done overnight. Yeah. They need you to take the next step, and that is so cool to watch that come together.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, it's so cool.
Again, I love this phrase seasons, and you kind of brought that up. I wonder, because I'm a big believer that if we listen, we're going to hear God's will and we're going to follow the path we should be on. And I just looking at you and you're on the path, right? But isn't it amazing that you went through everything you've gone through to get where you are today? Do you have other examples of things that like, man, I said no to that, so I could say yes to that, or I said yes, and I could have gone a totally different direction.
In a way, there are things that my wife would say you just make a decision without really thinking about, right? So ready, fire, aim. Yeah. Because sometimes I feel like God's led me, and then sometimes I just missed it, and it was just me, So really trying to discern. But I've done that before where I've done several startups since then, and they just didn't work like the first one, but I really felt like I was called to do it. One of them in particular was an import company. We started with, surely God would bless this. We were taking really amazing artisan products, think jewelry, tapestry, wood carvings of people around the world in persecuted countries, and we brought it into a Nevada-based company. It's called Afar Imports. And man, I just knew that would take off because that's right with God's heartbeat. It was a total financial flop. If I could tell you face to face that, this piece of silver was made by an artisan who was abused and you'd buy it immediately and you'd pay double. But unless I were belly to belly with you, that couldn't happen.
That story.
So we can only do that so many times. Well, the business failed and gave away all the assets pretty much, but the girl I'd hired in Nevada was in Malaysia for one of the conferences for us, and she met her husband. They became missionaries. They're now in Germany raising beautiful kids, and God said, isn't that okay as an ROI? I'm like, yeah. Okay, I get it. It's not just financial. We think financial as business people, like that was supposed to become multi-million-dollar, billion, whatever. It's going to be the biggest thing, and it's going to make so much money for me. But in God's economy, it's completely different. And that's what I'm learning in this season is, am I being obedient, allowing him to have his outcome?
That's right.
And then words of wisdom from my father. And I keep hearing his voice is never force anything. It's easy as us to come up with ideas that we think are, the the perfect idea, but
Yeah, sure.
am I forcing it? And I realize sometimes I am, and I try to never do that. And that's whether you're a mechanic, you never force anything, to a relationship, you never force anything, to marriage, to whatever. And I'm getting too philosophical,
No.
but you know what I'm saying? In business
it's
too,
outstanding.
it's just don't force it. There's the buyer and seller. Coming back to that, sometimes we force it, and the buyer's not ready, and the seller's not ready. It's got to be a win-win all the way around. And if it's not, and we're forcing it because of this, that, or the other, and you just realize there's red flags everywhere. Now, when I talk with a potential buyer, confidentially I'll throw the generic red flags out on the table. Like, here's the hair on the deal. Are you still interested?
Yeah.
Without saying anything. Even if they've signed an NDA, I'm not even going to disclose who the company is because I don't want to waste anybody's time. But here's the hair on it. Here's the opportunity. Is it a fit?
Yeah.
And I've walked with sellers for years, actually, on some of these because I love the sellers, and they like you people like you come alongside of them and help them get to the next level where it is sellable. They've dealt with the hair on the deal, so to speak. They've right-sized the company, and now it's ready.
Yeah.
I love it, though, when it does come together and it's perfect, and they said, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not going to work in the business, and you said they'll stay. Well, all they need is sales. I got sales all around the country that I can pour into them if they're willing to stay. Or I've got an operator that's a perfect fit, or it's a strategic fit, or for some people, they're buying a job. For other people, they're buying a strategy. Some people are building a portfolio.
That's right.
So it's all of the above. We just never know.
Yeah, correct.
We never know.
I love the part that you do that I don't. I bring people up, like you said, and prepare them. But you're actually making the deal happen. And what a blessing you are to both buyer and seller. Let's talk about those. So what kind of companies do you work with to bring them to market? And are you more on the seller side or on the buyer side?
100% on the seller side.
100% seller.
Yeah.
So tell me about some of the types of companies that come to you and work with you to get a deal.
Yeah, we'll break it into two buckets, if you will. So we call it Main Street, right, and lower middle market. So I would say Main Street deals are ones that we can get SBA loans on, less than $5 million. Lower middle market arguably would be from $5 million to 50, 60 million.
Yeah.
And we're working with one right now that's in that $35, $40 million range, down to some that are 500,000.
Yeah, correct.
To me, they're all the same because it's people.
Yeah.
And I really don't care. I'll work with somebody that's selling a lawn care business to somebody that's selling a service company, that's all over the United States. I guess what we do is we do the valuation first. So we never know. I was in somebody's office the other day and I looked at this little business. I'm like, it can't be worth that much. And now we just did a valuation and I'm about to tell them that their business is worth about $25-30 million.
Ooh.
And so you just don't know.
Yeah. You have
and then
to
on
get
some,
in.
they scratch their head and go, it's only worth $1 million. I'm like, and then we find out that they've run cash through the business. Like, no, it could be worth $2 million, but you're pulling a couple $100,000 a month or a year in cash out of the business. So we work with all types. So Sunbelt is a franchise. Our footprint is Lafayette, Lake Charles, Beaumont, but we work with typically sellers in that footprint where we can drive to and make deals, but they may have branches in Texas or Oklahoma or wherever. Construction companies, anything that's plumbing, HVAC, electrical, we got buyers all over the place looking for that. Construction's harder, because it's deal to deal, and unless they've got some kind of contract or something in place, it's really difficult. It's lumpy, but we sell those too. Just all over them. I just sold a offshore catering company,
What's the so when someone comes to you, you do evaluation, and you said, okay, let's go to market. What's the length of time on average that a company goes to market? It's kind of like when you put your house up, right? And then how long it takes to close. Yeah.
Well, that's also all over the map, but I'll give you a couple of examples. Offshore catering company, when we do the valuations, right? We charge to do evaluations. It takes us a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work. And then we give them what we call the box reality. By the time we do that, that takes probably 3-4 weeks, depending on how fast we get tax returns, P&Ls, all that kind of stuff. Once they see the number and they say, yes, let's do it, then we put together the marketing material, we go to market. That could take another 3 weeks or so. And by the time we get a buyer and we vet through everything, that could take several months. And then if they're leveraging debt, that can take also another 3 months. So I would say anywhere from let's go to let's close can be from 3-4 months to a year.
Yeah.
Easy. It really depends on the deal.
That's what I really like, the sellers who are getting to the end of their career and they think they're ready to exit. And then they find out, shoot, that our business is not either valuable or attractive, right? It's hard to tell somebody that. And you and I have to tell those folks almost every day.
Well, here's I think the one thing, Jeff, that they don't realize is they may be in a season in their life where they don't have any debt and the business is cash flowing fine for them. You know, it's a good lifestyle business or it's just a great business. But they don't think about it from the lens of a bank, a lender, and a buyer leveraging debt, because people who have money typically don't spend that money. They're going to leverage debt anyway. They're going to get the cheapest debt that they can get, and they're going to leverage that. So at the end of the day, either they're going to sell the business primarily to the bank, and they don't realize that. That's that box of reality. It's like, okay, yeah, you're doing great. Now let's look at what that looks like over a 10-year note at 9% or 8% interest. And now we're going to look at that cash flow from a buyer's perspective, who now has to pay themselves, pay the note, and have about 25 to 30% on top of that for the lender to say, I'll loan you the money. They don't get that. But then when most people that are reasonable, good business people go, oh, okay, now I understand why my business is only worth whatever, 2 million versus 5 million. And people have a number in their head and they think it has to do with the top line sales. It doesn't. It's about cash flow and add backs and multiples that are reasonable. Oh, I heard somebody sold that business for 5x. Oh, great. Or my CPA said it's worth X. Oh, great. How many businesses did your CPA sell last year? You know, like we fight with that all the time, but I'm not a pressure person. So I just said, this is what we can be we can be successful with if you want to go to market. If it's not right, go talk with Jeff. Here's what can move the needle and let's refresh this in a year or 6 months or whatever and see if anything's changed.
Yeah, the reality, though, that I want to get across, and I know you do too, because you want to do a deal when they come to the table, is exit strategy doesn't happen just the year before you want to exit. I mean, it's business strategy. Exit strategy is business strategy, and you got to start early. Like our guest just mentioned, chaos has a way of creeping up in our business, and it's confusing. It causes delay, and it's really, really expensive. I want to invite you to take our Erase the Chaos business assessment. It takes about 10 minutes to take. You'll get a free PDF report, and you'll have the tools you need to grow without chaos. Now, back to the episode. I love what you're doing, and I love coming from your experience owning a company, getting acquired. You had to become attractive enough inside and out to make that happen. And then you're so entrepreneurial with all the ventures you're into and everything else. But coming here to help, I feel like still everything you've done is service.
I like what Zig Ziglar said, and it's stuck with me. He was a strong believer, but he said, to get the things in life you want, just help enough people get what they want.
That's right.
And that resonates with me all the time. Yeah. Just do that. Just help other people. You know, don't worry about the commission. We've worked straight commission my whole life. Like, don't worry about that. Just help them get what they want. And if everything else will work out from there.
I also love what your dad said, and you still speak it today, is don't force it. Don't force anything. Looking into your future, what do you hope to happen?
More of this. Just love helping people in this season, like where I'm at. Yeah. This is the silver tsunami you might heard of. I mean, there's going to be more transfer of wealth than at any other time in our history.
That's right.
From people that are boomers like me. I'm the last of the boomers at 63, but people in their 60s and 70s are going to transfer wealth to the next generation. And some people don't have successors. So our job is to find people they've never met, find that successor, and then they can do their next season in life, and do it well. And so that's our job.
That is our job, and both of us, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm amazed, though, at the mindset of baby boomers over Gen X. Like the generations that are coming behind you, that I'm at the very back end of baby boomer. At least mindset-wise, they understand succession, and they understand that exit strategy we need to talk about it kind of with the end in mind. Are you finding that in the next generation?
What I'm finding is the frustration in our sellers that they can't find people that'll work. And I hate to say that, but that's, they could have doubled their business if they could find the right people.
Yep.
Whether it's somebody that would just show up on time, have a good attitude, and they'll teach them. They don't realize that, or they've gone through college, have debt, and now they expect a certain amount, but they've got no skills, no real world skills, or even practical skills. Like it's all book. I'll tell you what, a kid, I'm speaking to that kid now that's in high school that doesn't think college is right for them, that have a good attitude, have an aptitude. There is so much opportunity for people who don't have a successor. I'm working with a large company right now that doesn't have a successor. Their children will not take this business on. So they know, and they're in their late 40s, and they're great people, but they know I'm going to pass this on, but I'm willing to stay. They don't have a successor.
Yeah.
But their issue is they can't find good workers.
Yeah, it's true.
And and if they would, when you see a plumber come to your house that's in their 20s and they have a great attitude, look in the eye, shake your hand, and they're talented, you're like, oh my God, are you going to start your own company one day? Because you can.
That's right. That's right.
And we'll help you and leverage that, or continue to work, learn it, get your skills, and then boom, if they're entrepreneurial, or stay. They're just can they keep making so much money by the time they would have graduated from college. They're like smoking the college grad. I went to college. I'm glad I graduated. It's great if you have an end in mind. But now with AI, like we're talking about with your soundman McKinley, now with AI here, there's a lot of winners and losers, and there's a lot of industries that I would not want to be in because of AI. And that's critical for our universities to think through. How are they going to land after all this debt? Where really are they going to jump off to? What jobs are they going to get, or what businesses will they create? That's a big gap.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And so we do have to think people first. You know what I mean? And realize that AI has its place, but man, the human component, trust, true trust in individuals. And then it just energizes me hearing you, which you've always done. I always walk away from you with something going, either I'm on the right path or I got to get on it. But people, man.
Yeah.
We have to develop people.
Yeah. And you and I have both seen, friends leave this earth, transition. And it becomes what's important.
That's right.
Not to get sentimental, but that just happened with a friend that I just found out. And you just go, what's important? What's really important? And at the end of the day, it becomes, Jesus, the Bible had 613 commandments, and he boiled it down to 10, and then he sauteed it to 2.
Yeah. Correct.
So we got 2. We can love God and love our neighbor. And that's a great way where we can love our neighbor with the talents and skills and abilities that he's given you and I and everybody, right? The body of Christ is very diverse. Just love. It's easy. It's pretty simple. Like, help other people get what they want. That's it. And use your gifts and talents to do it without forcing anything.
Man, I tell you what, that's the best place to end. But I have to get a light bulb moment here, because love, don't force anything, and get people what they want. That's exactly what you do. Thanks so much for tuning in to Lead, Grow, Live. I hope you enjoyed this episode with Pete Prados. I'm going to make sure we put in the show notes how you can get in touch with him. If you're in a season where he can help you, certainly reach out to him. If you or somebody you know would be a great guest on the show, please reach out to me at jeff@companygrowthacademy.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Most importantly, keep leading your people, growing your company, and living your life.